Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective, where today we are going to be talking about the 5 best strategic moves ever done on the show. Now, a couple weeks ago, we did the 5 worst, so we're going to do the 5 best now. And I saw in the comments that you guys wanted less like all-stars moves and more like things that people did on the regular show. So this list has a nice mixture of both. As I said last time, strategy is starting to become more and more prevalent to Drag Race, and as the formula of the show continues on, people are going to find ways to hack it or get over roadblocks and things like that. So we're starting to see way more strategic moves actually done in regular seasons now than ever before. So I'm excited to talk about them today. But first, today's video is sponsored by Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen meals to your door that are also dietitian approved. Factor's team of gourmet chefs make meals using only the best ingredients to ensure that you feel great all day long. That is why I love Factor, because I can have these amazing meals and not have to go through all of the stress that it takes to get them together. I have also in the past done sponsorships for HelloFresh, which owns Factor, and those two, like hand in hand for me, are perfect. When I feel like cooking, I use HelloFresh, and when I don't feel like cooking, I get Factor. I just have to throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes and it's done, and I don't have to worry about it. And I'm not ordering fast food because guess what? DoorDash is unfortunately my best friend. But with Factor, I feel like I don't have to use DoorDash because I have so many easy, quick meals sitting in my fridge ready to go. I also love that they have so many options. Every week they have 34 plus fresh, never frozen, and delicious meals to choose from. So as someone who's like, I'm sort of picky, I'm not the pickiest eater, but I definitely don't eat everything, that gives me plenty of options to choose from. And I never have an issue finding a bunch of meals that I am very excited to eat. If you want to try Factor for yourself, you can go to factor75.com and use my code DRAGDETECTIVE50 to get 50% off your first box. So thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video and filling up my tummy. And now back to the video. Also, I promise you I steamed this thing twice. Like when I'm looking at it behind me, I'm not seeing, they're very like hard to see in person, but then on camera, I guess it needs a third steaming. So guess what I'm doing after this video, I guess. But it's fine. She's here. It's fine. So starting off our list, we're actually going to talk about an honorable mention that did not make the list. Actually, 2. Let's talk about 2 honorable mentions that did not make the list. Starting off with Selena S. Titties on season 15 during the stand-up challenge. Now, they each got to pick, I think it was soda cans or something like that. It was like a sponsored thing where they each went into a cooler and pulled out a colored soda, I think. Based on the color that they received, that's who they were paired up with in the comedy challenge. But there was one odd person out. I think this was at final 7. And the person who did not have a partner then had the option to either stay alone or steal a partner from somebody else, and then the other person would be alone. So Selena S. Titties had kind of been in the bottom for a couple of weeks now. You know, she started off pretty strong in the competition, but the last couple of weeks she had been, whether it was deserved or not, thrown into the bottom. So this was really a moment where like it was make or break. Like this could kind of determine if she stayed in the competition or if she went home. And she decided to pick Mistress Isabel Brooks as her partner and take her away from Marsha. Now, Marsha, off camera, like throughout the season, had said that this was a challenge that she was most stressed about, the stand-up challenge. So, 1, she's leaving Marsha out to dry, doing something completely alone that she's very stressed about. And 2, she's pulling in Mistress, who's someone really, really funny and who the judges just adore. So that's like 2 really, really good positives for Selena. And what actually ends up happening is Marsha doesn't do well and goes home, and Selena actually out-funnies Mistress, and this is probably her strongest week in the competition, which was very necessary for her, as like I said, she'd been in the bottom for a couple weeks now in the past couple of episodes. So this was a big, big moment for Selena on the season, for her strategic game, just overall a great moment for one of my favorites, Selena S. Titties. The other one I wanted to talk about is on season 14, during the Lollapalooza episode, when Willow Pill chose her opponent, not based on who she thought she could beat, but who she thought would pick the song that she really, really wanted to do. Now, as we know, the rules of the Lollapalooza is they spin the wheel and pick a random ball, and whoever's name is on that ball gets to choose their partner in the lip sync, but then the other person that they chose gets to pick the song. I think base level the strategy is, okay, let me pick the person who I know I can beat. But when there's so many different songs of different styles, I mean, that one had like Beyonce, Aretha Franklin, Luther Vandross, Jennifer Lopez. I mean, it was like all over the place. So even if you are a good lip syncer, you might not be a good lip syncer to all of those songs. And even if you're put up next to a weaker lip syncer, they might be better at whatever song you guys pick. So that is really where Willow Pill's strategy came into play, where she said, I want the Luther Vandross song. Who would pick that song? I think Bosco would pick that song. So she picks Bosco, Bosco picks that song, and Willow Pill wins the lip sync. Now, let's say that she picked someone like Diabetti, who, had already lost a lip sync on the season. Diabetti chose Respect by Aretha Franklin, and I think Willow Pill could also do well at that, but as we saw, Dia knocked that out of the park. It might have been harder for Willow Pill to beat Diabetti. So those were the two honorable mentions before we get to the main moments that made our list. Okay, at number 5, we have Gigi Goode, when before she even left for season 12, she had planned out things for every single potential challenge that could be on the season. So as we know, there are only a handful of challenges that Drag Race uses, and they kind of changed the fine details of the challenges, but we know there's going to be a makeover, we know there's going to be Snatch Game, we know there's going to be a ball, we know there's going to be the commercial challenge. Maybe not every season has a commercial challenge, maybe not every season has a stand-up challenge, but there's a certain amount of challenges that there are, and they pick from those to make the season. And Gigi Goode made sure that she had a plan for every single potential challenge. And this is just so smart because if you go in with just a baseline idea, then you can take the specificities from the challenge description, okay, it's the stand-up, but it's the Ross Rose or the Carson Rose, or it's the ball, but it's the ball, or it's the green ball, whatever it is. If you go in with just a baseline idea of things you could do, then you can adapt those ideas to what the challenge is specifically asking for. And I think that's why we saw Gigi do so well on the season, because she already came with all of these ideas and just needed to kind of fit them to the mold of the challenge. Also, I'm literally having the worst hair day of my life, so let's just not focus on that. Let's just not mention that. And I feel like this is actually something that a lot of queens do now. I mean, I think it's kind of stupid not to do it. I mean, if you're just going in blind, then of course you're going to struggle more than someone who's thought about literally every potential challenge and what they could potentially do for all of these challenges. So I think this is just a great strategy that anybody who goes on Drag Race needs to start implementing if you haven't already thought about it. Because if you're prepared for anything and everything, then when they start throwing these challenges at you, you're gonna kind of be like, okay, I know what direction I at least want to go, or at least I have a general concept for what I can do, and you can just get right on into it rather than sitting there okay, let's think of what I'm going to do from literally square one. So I think it's just setting you up to be ahead of people who aren't thinking that far ahead. So I think that's a great strategy. It really worked for Gigi Goode, and it's, I think, worked for many other people after her. At number 4, we have Detox eliminating Alyssa Edwards on All Stars 2. Now, we talked about a couple All Stars 2 moments in the worst strategies video, but we actually have one for the best strategies too, because for Detox, this was the best case scenario. Now, I know people are going to say, well, why wouldn't she eliminate Alaska? She's dumb for not eliminating Alaska. They're friends. She's not going to send her, best friend home. That's just not going to happen. So I'll get back to that because I'm going to put a pin in that as well. So we are at the top 5. Roxy is there. Alyssa is there. Katya is there. Detox is there. And Alaska is there. And the bottom 3 is Alyssa, Roxy, and Alaska. Now, Detox wins the lip sync and gets to send somebody home. And if you're just looking at who did the worst in the challenge, it was Alaska. But looking at the overall track record, Alaska has the best track record in the season. So Detox actually eliminates Alyssa Edwards. And I think this is good for 2 reasons. One, she doesn't know if it's going to be a top 4, a top 3. So who knows? Like maybe they have like another challenge where like they're going from a 4 to a 3 and they have to eliminate each other again. Well, having 2 of her closest friends there is a very good thing to have. And someone like Alyssa has no allegiance to Detox and would have no problem cutting Detox if that's what needed to be done. So by keeping her 2 allies in, it's good just baseline. Like who knows what's going to happen moving forward. I want to have these 2 people here. I think that is why getting rid of Alaska makes no sense. But on the other hand, getting rid of Alaska makes no sense because I think if Alaska didn't win this season, it was probably going to be Alyssa. If, she cuts Alaska here, they all go to top 4, Roxy gets cut at the top 4, and the top 3 is Katya, Detox, and Alyssa. I think Alyssa's probably winning that season, or maybe Katya, but I just don't see a world in which Detox wins this season just based on the fan reception, just based on who she was there with. I mean, she did an incredible job in this season, one of the most underrated runs on a season, but I just don't think she got the credit from the fans or from the judges. So I don't see a world in which Detox wins, but at least in this world, her best friend got to win instead of, Alyssa or Katya or whoever. So that is another reason why I think just getting rid of Alaska doesn't fully make sense for her. But by eliminating Alyssa here, Detox solidifies her spot in the top 3, because if she had gotten rid of Roxy, which was the right move, I mean, Roxy had been in the bottom 4 or 5 times at this point. Here's what happens. They move on to top 4, and Detox is the one cut. Because at the top 4, you have Alaska, Katya, Alyssa, and Detox, and I don't see them cutting Katya. I don't see them cutting Alaska. And if Alyssa makes it to that finale, I do not see them cutting Alyssa. I think Detox 1000% gets cut at the top 4 if Roxy is not there. So by doing that, she gets herself all the way to that final lip sync. And if she had gotten rid of Roxy, that never would have happened. That is why bringing Roxy to the end is such a good strategy. And I don't care how much they get shit for it. Detox and Alaska were so genius for this, and it really worked out for them. So I think that is one of the best strategies in all of Drag Race. At number 3, we have Peppermint and Trinity choosing each other for the season 9 grand finale lip sync for the crown. So let's go all the way back to season 9. This was the first ever lip sync for the crown. And as we know, production was kind of very last minute with the whole thing. They had very little time, like I think a week to get the costumes together, to get their reveals together, because they asked them to do reveals, they asked them to make it grand, all these things, but it was under very little time. They had no idea what the format was going to be before that, so they were all kind of scrambling to get their shit together. But Trinity the Tuck, or at this point, Trinity Taylor, and Peppermint really came together to form a genius strategy. So once they found out the format, they were like, we're probably gonna have to choose our opponents. And they knew that production was probably going to want a Shea Coulee versus Sasha Velour top 2, because they were the best friends. They had won 2 challenges together. They were kind of the heart of the season. Whereas Trinity and Peppermint kind of were in their own little, like they were on like little islands. Like Trinity had something with Eureka, but then Eureka went home. Peppermint was just kind of there having fun. But like they had a solid storyline there with Shea and Sasha. And they knew that Shea was probably going to win the season. Nobody who had won 4 challenges prior had not won their season. So it was kind of like written in the stars that Shea Coulee was going to win. So what Trinity and Peppermint did is they said, if we get to choose who we go up against, we have to pick each other, because that ensures that one of us is making that top 2 and that Shea and Sasha are not both going to be there. They're going to have to send one of them home. That gives me and you, Peppermint, a much higher shot at the crown, because if it's all up to WoW, they don't think that they're going to be there at all. Like, it's going to be a Shea and Sasha final too. So what happens? They choose each other and lip sync to Stronger by Britney Spears, and Peppermint beats Trinity, and Peppermint gets to be the runner-up of the season. But let's say that, Trinity chooses Sasha. Well, she's losing. Now, what they didn't know at the time was that Shay was not going to be doing great at this finale. She really wasn't going to be bringing what they really, really wanted and what the other three did bring. So I think anyone who goes up against Shay actually does make the top two regardless. But they didn't know that at the time. And they made sure that their plan was foolproof. Like, they were going to make the top two, one of them, regardless. And I think that is so smart and kind of is showing, wow, like, we know what you're gonna do, we know what you're trying, and we are not here for it, and we're going to literally put a pin in it immediately. And I just think that was such a smart decision, and especially for this being the first lip sync for the crown. Like, I could see this happening like later on, once you've seen the formula, you know what's gonna happen. But these two figured this shit out literally immediately right off the bat at the very first time this had ever been done. So I give them even more props for that. So I think this is one of the best, smartest moves on Drag Race ever, and that's why it's my number 3. At number 2, we have All Stars 8, and I'm actually crediting like almost every queen that was there for this move, which was eliminating James Mansfield at the Rusical. Now, let's set the scene. James Mansfield has been in the bottom before. This is her second time in the bottom, but this was Kahana's third time in the bottom. Now, Kahana did have a challenge win, but she had kind of just been ever since, whereas James also had a rocky start, but was saved from the bottom too, but has really had some high moments. She's been in the top a couple times. She's never really had a flop since. Her only other bottom placement was because of a team challenge, so you could kind of argue maybe she didn't deserve that. But James had been doing consistently better in the competition than Kahana. So how does James go home unanimously when she's in the bottom 2 with Kahana? Well, one, everyone really wanted her to go home after episode 1. That's just like baseline. They all were like, she tried, she threatened to quit. She was whining and complaining, and they're like, girl, this is day 1, go home. So I think that's always been in the back of people's minds. But now they actually had a golden opportunity to send her home. And everybody takes it. And I think that was very, very smart, because looking at the next couple of challenges, I see James killing all of them. I mean, next up was the true crime improv challenge. I think James does really well at that. Then was the design challenge, where they're given fabrics, and James is an amazing seamstress. I think she's gonna do really well at that. Then is the roast, which I think James would do well at that too. And then the makeover, and like looking at what the queens brought to that makeover, I think James would do well at that too. So getting rid of James here potentially is cutting her out of the end game, where I could see her making that top 2. Just looking at what challenges were coming up, I see her doing well at all of them. This really was the golden opportunity to send James Mansfield home, and everybody took it. And because of that, they all got to make it another week. And because they kept Kahana, who went the next episode, they all got to make it another 2 weeks. So it was like almost perfect for everyone who was voting out James. Like, it literally gave them an extra 2 weeks. It cut out somebody who was probably going to be doing really well, was probably going to be winning some of these challenges, and who I could definitely see in that top 2. So I don't think that they knew that was going to happen. Like, they don't know exactly what challenge is going to be thrown at them next to like strategize, okay, well, we should get rid of her here because she's going to do well at A, B, and C. But just by doing this move, I think it benefited almost everybody that was left. So sorry, James. I think it was not a benefit to James, obviously, but I think for everybody else, this was a genius move. And that's why it is my number 2. Now, for my number 1, I feel like it's pretty obvious. It's one of the most iconic moments of Drag Race herstory, one of the most iconic eliminations of all time, and that is Naomi Smalls eliminating Manila Luzon at the top 6 of All Stars 4. Now, this was just a very smart move in general for Naomi. Naomi started off super strong in the competition. She had 3 high placements for the first 3 episodes, but since then had kind of just been circling the drain a little bit. She'd been in the bottom a couple times. Her performances just were not as successful as the ones earlier on, not as strong as the ones earlier on. And it was kind of the writing on the wall that like Naomi was probably going to be going home soon. She was not going to be making that finale, and she was definitely not going to be winning the season. She had 0 wins under her belt at this point, and we're at the top 6. And that's with 2 winners each episode. But everything changes during the makeover, because Naomi wins the challenge and she wins the lip sync, and she's faced with sending home one of Manila or Latrice. Now, Latrice, she actually does owe a favor to because Latrice kept her the week prior over Valentina, who was actually closer with Latrice than Naomi was. So, on one hand, she owes Latrice. On the other hand, Manila is the front runner. She's won 3 challenges. She's been doing incredible, and she's kind of the one to beat. So the fact that she's in the bottom for the first time is kind of a golden opportunity, which Naomi takes, and she sends Manila home, which was like earth-shattering. It was insane. We hadn't really seen anything like this up to this point in All Stars. So it was just a great TV moment, which was obviously great for Naomi's career because she's going to be in the lexicon of Drag Race forever now. But also, it got her to that finale. 100,000%, she would not have made that finale if she did not send Manila home here. Because looking at the next challenge, if Manila was there, Manila's winning. Like, Manila is going to win that challenge. It was the Sex and the Kitty Girls challenge. And I mean, Trinity was good, Monique was good, but like Manila would have been in that top 2. Whether it was over Monique or Trinity, she was going to win that challenge. And she really didn't have to do much to win that challenge. So Manila is going to be in the top with either Trinity or Monique, and Naomi is going to be in that bottom with Latrice and then, you know, the other person. So Manila's not sending home Latrice. Manila's not sending home, you know, Monique or Trinity because they're amazing competitors. And Manila isn't about sending home, like, you know, she's not about making these, like, huge moves. She's really there to, like, get her friends to the end with her. And Naomi is not her friend, nor a insane competitor. So Manila is going to be sending home Naomi. And whether it's Monique or Trinity in that top 2 with her, I don't think it matters because I think Manila wins this lip sync regardless. We saw the lip sync. It was When I Think of You by Janet Jackson, one of my top 3 Janet Jackson songs. And it was a okay lip sync. Monique didn't do well. Monique did not do well at all. Trinity did serviceable. But this song is very much in the same vein as the Whitney Houston song, How Will I Know, earlier on in the season. It's this like bubblegum pop, 80s, like heartfelt love song. Manila, we know, can eat that up. And I think could very easily beat either Trinity or Monique in that lip sync. So it doesn't really matter what Trinity or Monique would have done. They'd probably both send home Latrice. But Manila's going to win, and Manila's sending home Naomi, and Naomi's getting cut before the finale. So by doing this move, Naomi 1000% solidified her place in the top 4 because she's keeping in Latrice, someone who has already gone home and who has an equal amount of bottom placements as Naomi, but like has already gone home. So like she's safe against Latrice. And she's taking out someone who 1, would never save her, and 2, is probably going to win the whole season. So Naomi truly hijacked the season with this move, and the fandom went insane, but it was such a moment. I'm so glad she did it. I mean, it's just iconic television. It's something we're still talking about like 5 years later. 5 years later, oh my God. And it's just an iconic Drag Race moment and the best strategic decision made by a queen. But let me know what you think. Am I missing a moment? I'm sure on international franchises, there are plenty of them, but I wanted to just focus on the US seasons for this video. Maybe you disagree with one of my choices. Maybe you think one of these was actually not a great strategic choice. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your all-time #1 strategic moment is on the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow me on all of my social medias. Also, my show Drag Duel is coming out with new episodes every single week, so make sure you do not miss that. Our cast is incredible. We are at the top 9, and we have the iconic commercial challenge coming up. So you do not want to miss that. My next kind of like part of this little series is going to be the 5 worst decisions that producers have made and the 5 best decisions that producers have made. So those will be the next 2 videos coming out on the channel. And then we're going to get into some more riggery. The riggery of blankety blankety blank. So I will catch you all very soon on the channel for that. Make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.